In this modern world of technology, nothing is getting any cheaper, right? Smartphones are getting way more expensive, so is laptops, so is cars, so is whatever, right? And only that, 1,000 ringgit doesn't seem to be as much as it used to. So if you're one of those people that happen to have 1,000 ringgit with you and you don't know what to spend on, then this video is made specifically for you. Both of these phones are less than 1,000 ringgit, surprisingly. And that is the Vivo Y20 SG and the Vivo Y20 2021. Without any further delay, I'm just gonna jump straight into the unboxing experience, right? We're gonna start off with the Y20 2021. That's a lot of 20. I'm gonna put aside the Y20s first. So right here, it's stated that it's 4 GB of RAM and also 64 GB of internal storage. And right here, inside the box, inside here, the user manual and your jelly casing. It's very common to see smartphone factories these days, they give you a free case as well, which I really like. I really appreciate that, which means I don't have to spend an extra buck going out to get a case for myself. And here is the phone itself. I believe this is the Dawn White version. It's really beautiful, actually. It's very glossy. And I believe it's also made out of plastic. It's really shiny for a plastic bag, right? And inside you have your standard USB and your charging port. Nothing much, no earphones, no dongle. We don't need any of that because this phone still have a headphone jack, which I like. Moving on to the Y20 SG. I believe it's the same setup. Yep, you get your SIM injector tool, you get your manual, and here's the phone itself. I believe this is the purest blue. Ooh, listen to that sound. It sounds like glass. To be honest, the back sounds like glass, but it's actually plastic. I'm amazed how Vivo actually made it to look like glass. And also inside the box, standard USB, charging brick, the jelly case. I love me some jelly. So specification. First, we're gonna talk about the Y20 2021. So the Y20 2021, it comes with the Helio P35 chipset. It's an entry level. As for the Vivo Y20 SG, that one comes with a bit more of an upgrade than the little brother has, which is the G80. I believe it's catered more for gaming. The chipset, it does help in terms of performance, which I'm gonna get into real soon, right? In terms of design, it looks like someone just ran out of ideas and they ended up duplicating one another. These two phones, they're not really different. They're pretty much the same design in terms of weight as well. Speaking of weight, if I were to compare it to other smartphones, this one is slightly heavier. I wanted to highlight the back part. It's really shiny, it's very glossy, but it's not particularly my favorite because I would consider myself as a minimalist. I like things to look a lot cleaner. Just black and gray is fine for me, but some people dig these colors. Let's get into pricing, right? The Vivo Y20 2021, it comes with a price of 599 ringgit. 599, boys! That's cheap! And the bigger brother right here, it comes with a slightly more expensive due to the fact that the chipset is a little bit better and also the internal memory and the RAM is a little bit bigger. It's 749 ringgit. Is it really worth it for this price, with this chipset, with this design, with this setup? That is why this video is here today. Let's talk about that. But what about the display on both of these phones? They both have 720p IPS LCD display. There's nothing real special. It's no OLED over here. You don't get the deep black that you get from OLED, but to compensate for that, I want to talk about media consumption. The media consumption is really nice because on this phone you get a 6.5 full view display, right? It's a big display. A bigger display always means a better media consumption. And speaking of speaker, it's loud enough as well. It's mono speaker, however, there's nothing really much to talk about mono speaker, but it was really loud. Camera setup. Let's talk about the camera on this phone. Is it good? Is it worth the money? So, at the back here for both phones, yet again, it's completely identical. It's 13 megapixel for the standard lens, and you have the 2 megapixel macro lens and 2 megapixel on the portrait lens as well. Okay, so we're outside now. We're gonna do the test for the Y20 SG and also the Y20 2021. To my surprise, the photos that it takes, it's quite decent, but it's not what you would expect from a flagship smartphone per se, you know? This phone the price justifies the camera that you get. From what I tested from the standard camera, the whole outcome loses a lot of details, right? It was always overexposed. You can't really work your way around it. I tried editing it, you know, when it's overexposed, it's overexposed. You can't really work around it, right? And as for the macro, it really needs good light, but because of its 2 megapixel lens in there, you lose a lot of details, which makes me question, why did you even include it in the first place? As for the portrait, surprisingly, the processing on the portrait side, it's really nice, image processing. For both phones, I feel like despite they have the same camera setup, they both produce different results. How is this possible? I believe it's due to the fact that it both have different processing, image processor, right? Now let's move on to the selfie camera. Selfie camera, it's not much of a difference. It's 8 megapixel for both as well. I tried walking while recording myself, and the footages were shaky, if I were to be honest. It was really shaky. But that doesn't prevent me from posting on my Insta story because I like talking on my Insta story, and I also wanted to know how it looks like after posting it on Instagram, because sometimes Instagram tend to decompress the file and make it look a bit pixelated, and the result I gotten on this was, well, as you would expect, pixelated. However, for the Y20SG, it does come with this feature of slow-mo. They're both capable of shooting 1080p back and front camera. But I want to touch a little bit on the slow-mo part. The slow-mo, however, is not, I would say, up to my standard, because as a content creator, I personally prefer my content to be a little bit more detailed, a little bit more, you know, aesthetically pleasing. But the result I got from this slow-mo was not really up to my standard, if you might say that way. But if you're the kind of person that doesn't really mind about the content that you produce, it's just about taking photos, you know, it's just about recording videos, then it's fine. The fact that it's capable of recording at 1080p, but the display is 720p, I find that a bit of a mix and match, I would say. But like I said, I'm gonna repeat my point right here. If you don't mind any of that, then this phone is no problem. I mentioned earlier, I'm gonna talk about gaming, right? What was the gaming performance? I did mention the fact that Y20SG has this gaming processor. And how will that actually affect your gaming experience? Also the fact that it both have different RAM. One has 4 gigabytes of RAM, another one has 6 gigabytes of RAM. How did that affect? Well, from my experience, I downloaded Mobile Legend, and the second one I tried downloading Wild Rift. So if you guys don't know Wild Rift, it's a game that is a bit more on the high intensity part, right? I played it on this phone. To my surprise, the Y20SG cope with it really well. I would say budget phone is capable of running game so smoothly. However, if you're comparing it with the Y20 2021, it's alright. Wild Rift, PUBG, and also maybe Genshin, I don't recommend it going on the Y20 2021. However, the Y20SG is capable of handling more than that. This is where we see, you know, most of the time you question, oh, does 4 gigabytes of RAM matters? You know, is 6 gigabyte of RAM, 8 gigabyte of RAM really matters? Well, it does. The Y20SG, I gotta give it to you. You kind of caught me off guard. Good job, Vivo. You didn't disappoint on that end. As expected, after 3 to 4 hours of gaming, you do expect a slight increase of temperature, right? It's pretty normal for most phones these days. But I feel they handle the heat pretty well. I don't know how they do it, maybe because the way they distribute the power of the battery that they have. Which brings me to my next point, the battery. I'm amazed by how long it can last. Now, after I mentioned about this battery, why it lasts so long, it finally makes sense. The 720p display finally makes sense. Now we get to save more battery. But moving on the Y20SG, we do get an 18-watt fast charge, Vivo's very own fast charge. And as for the Y20 2021, it does come with 10-watt fast charging. In terms of screen on time, I managed to get about 9 to 10 hours with low to medium brightness and also not high intensive media browsing. However, when I'm gaming, I can go about maybe at max 5 to 6 hours. I mean, it's expected because gaming definitely consumes a lot more power, right? For 5,000 mAh battery, I think it's doing pretty alright. It's average. It's not the best for the price you pay. Yet again, we're talking about payment here. We're talking about the price. From 0 to 100%, it would take about 1 hour 45 minutes to 2 hours at most. I do believe that's the rough estimation from what I've tried. This phone is definitely a win for me, right? The battery, the gaming performance, tip top, man. I'm gonna talk a little bit about Vivo's software. The software they run on both of these phones, it's FunTouch OS 11. It's Vivo's very own skin on top of Android. So if you look in the history, right, Vivo don't really have a good impression in terms of how their skin looks like in the market generally, but I think with FunTouch OS 11, they try to keep it as minimal as possible, which the way I like it. I don't like heavy skins on my software. I think Vivo did a really good job on that one. I think one of the reasons why this phone is capable of handling such high intensity gaming is because Vivo have their own software called the Multi-Turbo 3.0. So what that does is it helps distribute the heat all over the phone. And I guess that is why the gameplay is really smooth. I'm fully immersed in it. Both of these phones do have a fingerprint scanner, which is side mounted right here. As you guys can see, both of the Y20 SG and Y20 2021. From my personal experience, however, the fingerprint scanner has been a bit of a hit or miss. I think due to the fact that it's so tiny on the side and it doesn't usually register as quick. It does require multiple tries. There's been certain points where it actually says fingerprint disabled, so I have to enter my password, but that's for the fingerprint scanner, I guess. With that all being said, who is this phone for? Who would want to buy this phone? Who would actually pay for a phone that is $749 and $599, right? Well, from my experience, it's probably for those of you who don't really want to spend an extra amount of money on a phone, and I think this would suffice. And also for parents, if you know your kids want to game on phones, right? And the third and last one, for those of you who would want to have an emergency phone. So let's say your phone is running out of battery, your main phone, and you have an emergency phone that has a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, right? A good phone doesn't necessarily mean that it needs to be high price. Even a budget phone like this could actually provide some of the best features for you. So it's all about being smart rather than being cheap. So that's my review on the Vivo Y20 SG and also the Y20 2021. I need some time to get used to that. However, definitely stay tuned because over here we have so much more product to check out because at Shopee Review,
we check for you!
That's it from me. Peace out.